move to the next step in strategic planning, and that's working on what's referred to as your strategic intent. Your strategic intent. And your strategic intent includes three different really important pieces of your business: your core values, your mission, and your vision. Core values, mission, vision. So we're going to take each of those one at a time, and I'm going to pull up the PowerPoint presentation here. Yep, good. All right, core values. So in the article that you had, the pre-reading, Jim Collins defined core values as a handful of guiding principles by which a company navigates. I love this definition, just in terms of the kind of the metaphor, the picture. A handful of guiding principles by which a company navigates. Essentially, your core values define behavior within your company, how your people behave. They are some people call these your shoulds and your shouldn'ts, what employees should do and what your people should not do. In a way, they define the boundaries for decision-making within your company. A handful of guiding principles by which a company navigates. I'm curious, just show of hands, how many of your companies today have a written set of core values? Yeah, that's good number. All right. So in your reading, Collins provided us with a criteria for core values. What are core values? What's the criteria for core values? Number one, he said, our core values are timeless, meaning they should last us forever. We don't come up with core values for 2021 or for 2022. Our core values should last us for a long period of time. They should be timeless. Next, there's no external justification for our company's core values. No one outside of our company has to approve of or sign off on our core values. They're meant primarily for internal purposes. And in that respect, they should have intrinsic value. Intrinsic meaning they should be meaningful to our team, to our employees. They should be valuable to our people, intrinsic value. Fourth, our core values should be authentic. They should be true to who we are as a company. And I find this is one of the biggest mistakes that companies make when they develop their core values, is they develop core values not for who we are today, but who we want to be. And that's a big mistake. You want to create core values for who you are today. You don't want them to be, the term that's used is aspirational. You don't want your core values to be aspirational. You want them to represent what you believe in today. They should be authentic. Number five, they should be inspirational. They're meant to inspire, not so much to differentiate, but they're meant to inspire your people to do what's possible, to aspire to be something better. And then last, there should be a limited number. I like to see ideally maybe 5 to 7 core values. Sometimes I see less than that. Sometimes I see slightly more. I think any more than 10 to 12 is too many, because I should be able to walk up to any one of your employees and say, okay, what are the core values? And they should be able to list them off one after another. So it should be a limited number of core values. So then, now that we understand the criteria for core values, then the question becomes, so how do we come up with these core values? Should we just maybe survey employees? How do we come up with these core values? Well, Jim Collins was asked this question. How do we come up with our core values? And he was asked this, and I thought his response was interesting. And he said, well, someone said, how do we develop these core values? And he said, you don't develop core values. He said, you discover your core values. You don't develop them, you don't make them up. They're already in place, whether you've written them down or not. Every company has a set of core values. So it's not about developing core values, it's about discovering your core values. So then the question is, so how do we do that? How do we discover our core values? So if you want to turn to the next page in your workbook, it says discovering your core values. Let's look at how we go about doing that. First of all, you see, went through this. These are some examples. These were in your handout, examples of core values from Merck Pharmaceuticals, from Nordstrom, the department store, from Walt Disney, examples of core values. So let's turn to that page where it says discovering your core values. And I'm going to walk you through two different ways, two different techniques for discovering your core values. Okay. So the first one, let me come back to this main screen here. So the first one says, what do I find intolerable? On the left-hand side, it says, I would consider it intolerable if an associate, every company has intolerables. Intolerables are essentially fireable offenses. What would get someone fired within this company? And so on the left-hand side, I want you to identify 3 intolerables within your company today. 3 intolerables. In other words, what would get someone fired in your company today? What would someone have to do to get fired? 3 intolerables. So Margarita, what would be an example? Margarita, in your company today, what would be an intolerable? What's an example?
Dishonesty.
Dishonesty, good example. Yeah, good example. Dishonesty would be a good example of a intolerable, right? We're not going to put up with that. Mike Price, in your company, what would be an example of an intolerable? What would get someone fired?
Theft.
Theft, yeah, stealing, theft. Good example, good example. Let's get one more. Melissa, in your company, what would be an example of an intolerable?
Consistently being late.
Okay, yeah, lateness, being late, not showing up for work on time. All right, so you've got intolerables. Now on the right-hand side, I'd like you to come up with, using one word if possible, what is the exact opposite of each intolerable? So Melissa, the opposite of being late would be?
Being on time.
Yeah, be on time. Mike, the opposite of stealing would be what?
Honesty.
Honesty, yeah, good. So one word that describes the opposite of each intolerable. See what you come up with. And as you look at this list on the right-hand side, what have you just discovered? What do these look like? Anyone?
Character traits.
Okay, character traits, close. What else? What have we just discovered?
Elements of what's important to us.
Yeah, core values. You've just come up with a short list of your company's core values on the right-hand side. Now, for whatever reason, for many people, it's easier to think of the negative, which is the intolerable, and then go from the intolerable to the core value. It's easier to go from the negative to the positive. But if you look on the right-hand side there, you've just identified, at least begun to identify, discover your company's core values. So this is one tool for discovering core values, starting with the intolerable. All right, let's look at a second tool. On the bottom of that page, it says, in my free time. Now, I know for many of you, this is going to be a difficult question because you don't have any free time, right? But in your free time, on the left-hand side, identify the 3 to 5 things that you enjoy doing most when you're not working. On the left-hand side, 3 to 5 things you enjoy doing most when you're not working. So for me, that would be travel, it'd be reading, I love playing tennis. It'd be playing tennis. It'd be exercising, being around family. Things that you enjoy doing most in your free time, on the weekends, vacations, on the left-hand side. And once you've come up with 3 to 5 of your favorite non-work activities, on the right-hand side, I want you, where it says why, I want you to come identify one word that identifies the why behind each of those activities. So for me, tennis, the why is competition. I love to compete. I love to get out and compete. Travel, the one word for me would be adventure. Travel for me is an adventure, and I love a good adventure. So come up with one word for each activity that describes the why. Why do you enjoy this activity? Why do you spend so much time doing blank? So let's hear some examples. Nicole Daniel, give us one example of an activity and what is the why?
I would say this is something I just started recently doing, believe it or not, is to just sometimes vegetate and just be lost because I want to disconnect from reality.
Okay, that's a good one.
Escape.
Yeah. Helen, what's an example for you? What's the activity and what is the why?
The one example is reading for me,
Mhm.
and I know the one word is learning, but it's really peaceful for me. But
Could be both.
yeah, I put down both, so that's
Yeah.
one. Thank you.
Reading is one of mine, and the core value for me, or the why, is growth. It's right. It allows me to grow intellectually. So as you look at your list on the right-hand side under why, what have you just discovered about yourself? What do those look like? What have you just identified for yourself on the right-hand side?
Personal core values.
Beautiful. Margarita, you're right. You've just identified your personal core values. So for me, my personal core values are family, growth, competition, adventure, and healthy. Those are my 5 personal core values. Now, if those are my personal core values, what is the likelihood that they may also represent my business core values? Very good chance, right? Because unless I'm like living a dual personality, whatever I believe individually, I'm also going to believe in my business. So my personal core values are also my business core values. They're the exact same thing. So this is the second way that you can discover, that you can identify core values, is just start with your personal core values and then look at those and say, okay, do these apply to my business? And using your team, you can pose the same question. So if I have, I don't know, 5 direct reports, I ask them the same question. What do you enjoy doing most outside of work? And then identify the why. And then we take all of those whys, I don't know, 20 or 25 different whys, and we narrow it down to 5 or 7 core values. That's how we arrive at our core values. Okay? So a couple different ways to discover your core values. And then the question becomes, okay, now I've got my core values. We've written them down. We've put them on bulletin boards, signs, hats. We've got them everywhere now, core values. Now, what do we do with them? How are we going to use our core values in just day-to-day operation of the business? So let me hear from you. How do you use your core values? Where do they come into play? Anybody?
We hire based upon our core values, for sure. We make that part of making sure they fit into our culture. And then in our monthly all staff meetings, we strength spot and identify who's using a core value and how.
I love both of those. Number one, using them for hiring purposes. Jim Collins said something else. Someone asked Collins, they said, how do I get my people to buy into my core values? How do I get my people to buy into my core values? And Colin's answer was interesting. He says, you don't. You don't. He says, you hire people who share your core values. Because if I hire Christine and she doesn't believe in my core values, what are the chances that now just magically, because she's one of my employees, that all of a sudden she's going to share my core values? Doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. They have to have those core values coming in. They have to share those core values coming in, because if they don't, the likelihood of them somehow just adopting my core values, very unlikely. So very important that you use your core values in your hiring. In fact, what I suggest to my clients is that about 50% of the job interview should be about core values. Should be about core values. So as an example, if I'm interviewing Luis has come in for a job interview, and we're going to talk about his skills, we're going to talk about his competencies, we're going to talk about his work experience, but pretty quickly I'm going to get to core values, and I'm going to ask a question like this. So Luis, one of our core values here is competition. Give me the most recent example that you competed at the highest level and what resulted from that. Because what I need to know is that Luis cares as much about competition as I do. I need to know that he shares that core value. So I'm going to ask, that's what's referred to as a behavioral interviewing question. I'm going to ask him about competition. I'm going to ask him about family. I'm going to ask him about growth and reading books. I'm going to ask him about staying healthy. Because again, I need to know that he shares my core values. Now, would you agree that not everyone is highly competitive? Yeah, not everyone's highly competitive. Just because if Luis is not highly competitive, that doesn't make him a bad person. That just makes him a bad fit for my company. You see the difference? He's a great person if he's not competitive, but he's not going to be a good fit for my company because people in my company are highly competitive. Okay. So one excellent way to use core values is in the hiring process. And Julie shared another great way to use core values is on an ongoing basis with your existing employees. Because while you interviewed them for core values when they came in, you also want to make sure that now that they're on board, now that they're one of your employees, that they are continuing to demonstrate those same core values. So if I'm doing a performance review with Laura, one of my questions is, well, Laura, you know, one of our core values is competition. In the last 3 months, last 6 months, give me an example of a time that you competed for something as hard as you could and you were successful. And then I may ask a similar question. I may say, give me an example of something you competed for in the last 3 to 6 months and you were unsuccessful. I want to know how she uses that core value of competition on an ongoing basis. Okay. So great examples of ways that we're going to use core values. I'm also going to suggest that you want to use these core values in making decisions. How many of you face at least one difficult decision every day? Yeah, every day, right? We face difficult decisions. And I want to suggest that once you have implemented these core values, those difficult decisions get easier. Because the question that you're going to ask yourself is, what are my core values telling me about this decision? In fact, that's a question that I ask my clients. I've got clients that I coach, CEOs of companies, and if they're facing a tough decision, let's say that Nicole is one of my clients and she's having a tough decision, the question I'll ask, it's a pretty simple question, is I'll say, Nicole, how do your core values speak to that decision? And all of a sudden, what seemed like a difficult decision just got easier. Because if you use your core values as boundaries, as a filter for those tough decisions, trust me, those decisions get much easier. because now whatever your decision is has to be consistent with those core values. And the same thing for your employees. While you're here today, are your employees making decisions on your behalf? Of course they are. Now, they have two choices. They can either call and interrupt you during this session, which is a terrible decision, or they can make the decision on their own using your company's core values. Which would you rather have? Do you want them calling you 12 times a day? Should I do this? Should I do this? Or do you want them just asking themselves, okay, our core values are this, this, and this. Okay, that's how I make decisions now based on core values. So decision making not only gets easier for you with core values, it gets much easier for your employees. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Okay. So a number of different ways that you're going to use these core values once you've established them, once you've discovered them going forward. Any questions on the core values? Questions, additional thoughts?
Just additional thought, and thank you, Tim, for making it practical. I do appreciate that. Is that, when the core values are as such, as you just walked us through, your gut speaks to you, right? If you happen to make a decision that's counter to what's written, your gut is screaming all day long, and you don't feel the best. So thank you for that.
And I appreciate that. And going back to using these in the hiring process, here's what I suggest to my clients. Let's say you've got 5 core values, whatever they might be. For any new hire, again, this is my thinking. For any new hire, they have to be completely aligned with 3 of the 5 core values. They have to be mostly aligned with a 4th. And I'm going to give them a pass on a 5th. Carefully, I'm going to give them a pass on one of the 5, because what are the chances I'm going to get someone who's perfect on all 5 core values? I wish that was true, but boy, that's hard. So again, completely aligned with 3 of my values, somewhat aligned with a 4th, and I'm going to carefully give them a pass on one of the 5. Carefully. Okay, does that make sense? Just something to think about in terms of hiring. Okay. So now what I'd like to do, so first piece of strategic intent is our core values. The second piece of strategic intent is our purpose. And so let me go back to the presentation for that. And what happened to it? There we go. So your assignment after today's session is to watch one of my favorite TED Talks. How many of you are familiar with TED Talks, TED.com? Yeah. Tens of thousands of great, short, usually 15 to 20-minute talks. And one of the 5 most watched TED Talks is a TED Talk by this gentleman, Simon Sinek. And the title of it is the title of his book is called Start with the Why, best-selling book. So I bring this up because this idea of having a mission statement for many years, I didn't understand. I didn't get, as a small business owner, why did I need to have a mission statement? It seemed soft. It seemed like something you'd read in a book, but wasn't really important. And I had a hard time even trying to persuade people to have a mission statement because I wasn't sure it was important until I saw this TED Talk. And after watching this TED Talk, it became so clear to me why every company should have a mission statement. And that's why I want to make sure you watch this TED Talk after today's session, because Sinek says, he makes one statement that really stands out, that is so powerful. He says the following: people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Very simple statement, but the science reinforces this. Research and science backs this up completely. People don't buy what you do. They don't buy your parts. They don't buy your service. People don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. They buy your purpose. They buy your mission. So when we talk about this idea of purpose, your purpose is the reason for being for your company. Why does your company exist? It is your core purpose. Your mission is what makes your company heroic. I love that term. It's what makes your company heroic. It causes it to stand out. Your mission captures the soul of your company. It answers the question, why does this company exist? Why are we here? And Jim Collins in your pre-reading suggests that your mission statement, once you've come up with it, in terms of how long should it last? And his answer is simple. He says, maybe 100 years. Your mission statement should last up to 100 years, if not longer. And it's also interesting to consider that your mission statement is something that you may never actually capture. You may never actually get there. But again, it's your reason for being. So in the article that you read, Collins sets out, again, a criteria for your mission statement. Let's walk through this. He says, first, for your mission statement, it's not a goal or a strategy. So a mission statement is not, we want to get to $2 million in revenue. It's not, we're gonna redo our website. That's not a mission statement. It's not a goal or a strategy. Your mission statement is not tied directly to either your product, what you sell, or your market, to whom you sell. It's not tied to either one of those. It's not tied to revenue or profit. In fact, revenue and profit are a result of your mission statement, but they're not mission statements by themselves. We get revenue and profit because of our mission statement. Our mission statement is not bound by any constraints of time. So again, we don't do a mission statement for 2021 or even for this decade. It should last us beyond that. No time constraints. Instead, our mission statement should reflect our reason for being. Why does this company exist? So here are some examples, and what's not on there, but you could add this as an additional criteria, is that your mission statement should be short. Sometimes I'll see companies and they'll do like an entire paragraph for a mission statement. That's too long. Again, I should be able to recite my mission statement from the top of my head. It should be that simple. So you see several examples here of mission statements. 3M, to solve unsolved problems innovatively. Mary Kay Cosmetics, to give unlimited opportunity to women. Nike, this is one of my favorites, to experience the emotion of competition, winning, and crushing competitors. Isn't that a great mission statement? If you know anything about Nike, when they first got started, their biggest competitor was Adidas. And everything they did was focused on crushing Adidas as a company. Every meeting, they talked about, how are we going to put Adidas out of business? That was their purpose. That was their mission. Walt Disney, to make people happy. One of my favorite mission statements is the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. You all are familiar with the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. Their mission statement, ladies and gentlemen, serving ladies and gentlemen. That's their mission statement. You can just picture that at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. Ladies and gentlemen, serving ladies and gentlemen. So one way to think about your mission statement is to answer the following question. How do we as a company contribute to a better world? How do we as a company contribute to a better world? It's not a statement of what we ought to do. It's a statement of what we actually do. So then the question comes up, so how do we come up with a mission statement? It's not easy. I can assure you of that. It is not easy to come up with a mission statement. So I'm going to share with you, let's see here. I'm going to share with you one tool for coming up with a mission statement. And I'm going to need a volunteer. Let's see. Nicole Daniel, do you mind working with me for a second?
I'll try.
Okay, beautiful. So it's just you and I. No one else is here. Just you and I. Everyone else has left the room. Remind me what it is that you do. Remind me what your business does, please.
I have a child care center
Okay. How long have you been in business?
since 2004.
Wow. Ooh, 16 years. That's great. A child care center. And why a child care center? What's important to you in terms of having a child care center?
I'm providing a service in a safe, nurturing environment so that parents can go to work and be assured that we're taking care of their children in a loving manner.
Okay, so nurturing, safe, taking care of kids. And talk about the kids. So why is that important to you? Taking care of kids, creating a safe environment for these kids.
Because, well, to sound, I guess, archaic, because they are our future. They're the representative of our society. And I feel that we have an opportunity, I have an opportunity to mold little minds, and I want to make a difference. I want to have impact.
Wow. Whew, boy, that's a lot to unpack. So they represent our future. They're about who we are, helping create these kids. Wow. Go back to that. In terms of the future, why is that important to you? This idea that in a way you're impacting your community's future through these kids. Why is that important to you?
I think it's important to shape little minds. There are, in general society today, there's a shortage of family life, of parents being parents. So it's important that they get the attention that they deserve, the love that they deserve, because some parents are so busy. We see children from 6 a.m. until 6:30, and then they go to bed, and then they're back again at 6 a.m. the following day. So how much time are they really spending with their parents? And then I also see as soon as the children are picked up, they're on their iPads or their cell phones, and they're being used, technology is being used to be babysitters, so that a lot of parents don't really get an opportunity or the desire to do what they should, which is to parent.
Yeah. So shaping our children, shaping our future, providing them with what they're not already getting. This idea of while you've got them, being able to impact them in a way that maybe they're not getting outside of the center. Talk more about that. Why is that important to you? Why is that important?
Because the children at this age, the environment that they grow up in shapes them for the future.
Yeah.
So if they're not being loved, then they're not going to grow up to be lovers of, our society in general.
Yeah. Shaping the kids, shaping our future just by loving these kids.
And
How many of you would-
interaction.
I'm sorry.
And social interaction with the children, that is also lacking. I know from personal experience that children often are picked up, like I said, late, and then they eat, they shower, go to bed, and then they sleep for 12 hours, and then they're back again. I just feel that a lot of children are really lacking in just parents' time. That's one of the reasons that cell phone, when parents were able to come into the facility, which they are not at this time because of the pandemic, we had to ban the cell phone use by parents because so many times I would see little 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds tugging at their mom or dad saying, "Mommy, mommy, look what I did today," and to show them, to get their attention, and parents are busy talking on the telephone. It's like, just a minute, baby, just a minute. Was a daily occurrence.
Providing uninterrupted time in a world of interruptions. Interesting.
That's it.
So just show of hands, how many of you would trust your kids with Nicole just based on what you've heard? No, wait a minute. You haven't even seen her facility yet. We haven't gotten to her pricing. We don't know what happens every day. We don't know what the curriculum is. And yet by my count, 98% of you said, I would drop off my kid at Nicole's daycare center. Well, what just happened? She didn't talk about anything about what they do. What did she talk about? She talked about her why. So what I just walked Nicole through is called the 5 whys. It's never failed me. You might have seen, I was keeping track. I only got to the 4th why before it became clear to me what her purpose, what her mission is. This idea of shaping these kids, shaping our future, creating uninterrupted time in a world of interruptions. It's a pretty powerful why. Nicole, do you have a mission statement for your business today?
I don't. I go back to that initial statement I made. Sometimes I feel like I stay in business in spite of myself.
Well, now you do. Now you've got a mission statement. You just described it. All you've got to do is put it into a sentence. You've got your mission statement.
Well, just going through this exercise of like what core values and so forth, and I never really, like I said, had a mission statement or core values or culture of the staff or anything like that. But one of the things that the word that just kept coming up when the core values came up was that it's a moral compass of my company. That's the simplest way to describe it is it's a moral compass.
Yeah. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. We all became customers of Nicole's not because of what they do, but because of why they do what they do. Now, the 5 whys, hard to do to yourself. Tim, you can't, kind of hard to go back and forth. You need someone to kind of guide you through that, a friend, a colleague, a neighbor, a family member, to just walk you through. It's a simple exercise. Just all you're doing is asking why up to 5 times. What do you think happens to companies that don't have a clear purpose? Well, here's what I see. Companies that don't have a clear purpose, employees tend to create their own purpose. If there's not a mission statement, if there's not a purpose statement, if there's a void there in terms of a purpose, it's just human nature that employees will create their own purpose. They'll create their own why. And imagine if I had a company with 20 employees and I didn't have a mission statement. Well, I don't have a mission statement. Instead, I have 20 different purposes. Well, how do you think that works out in a company having 20 different purposes? It's like having 20 people in a boat all rowing in 20 different directions. What happens to the boat? Usually stays where it is, or it goes backward. So each of you, congratulations. Each of you have a new job title. You can put this on your business card. You are now each the CMO of your company. The CMO of your company. What does CMO stand for? Chief Meaning Officer. You're now at the highest level. You're responsible for making sure that, one, you've identified the meaning, the purpose of your company. And second, making sure that on a daily basis, your company lives that purpose, lives that mission. Purpose, mission. So I know this really hit home for me a while back ago, and I've shared this story a number of times before. I have a dry cleaners that I go to regularly here. And the dry cleaners is, I don't know, maybe a couple miles from the house, not too far. Whenever I've been going to the same dry cleaners for years. When I go to the dry cleaners, I pass several other dry cleaners that I could just as easily go to, but I go back to the same dry cleaners every time. Why do I do that? But I was reminded why I do that when I went in recently. The owner's name is Charles. And when I go into Charles Dry Cleaner, he's always there, always greets me. First question he asks every time I go in, Tim, how's the family? That's his first question. He's met my wife. He's met my 2 sons. I've met his wife. He has 2 sons and a daughter. His first question to me every time I go in is, Tim, how's the family? On his front counter at the dry cleaner is a picture of his wife, his 2 sons, and his daughter. There's not a brochure. There's not a picture of clean clothing, pictures of his family. Charles cares as much about family as I do. We share that. We share that purpose, that value. And so while I could go to any one of any other dry cleaners, I go to his. It's not about price. It's not about, I don't know what a clean pair of pants is. Is there a way of distinguishing between dry cleaners? Maybe there is. But all I know is he cares as much about family as I do. I go back time after time after time. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Okay? All right, so we've talked about core values. We've talked about your purpose, your mission. We have one more thing to talk about, and that is your vision. Your vision. So your vision essentially is it's a picture in your mind of success for your company. And sometimes that's the way I put it with my clients is I say, so describe what success looks like for this company. Or what will this company look like when you're done? What will this company look like when you're done? My experience is that every company has a vision. Every company owner has some sense of where they want this company to go. Maybe they haven't written it down into a vision statement, but every company has a vision. I also know that not every employee will share your vision. You may have it, but not every employee is going to buy into that vision necessarily. My favorite definition for a vision, and I'm sorry I don't have this written down for you, but I just saw this recently. It's a great definition. It's from a gentleman an author by the name of Balaji Krishnamurthy. He says the following: a vision is a simple, uplifting, inclusive, believable, but challenging, vivid picture of the future. Simple, uplifting, inclusive, believable, challenging picture of the future. So you see on the screen here a picture of a jigsaw puzzle. When I think of vision, I think of a jigsaw puzzle. I love doing jigsaw puzzles. Anyone else? Show of hands. Anyone else like doing jigsaw puzzles? If you could see, I'm in my office now. If I turn my camera around, I'm looking right now at a puzzle on the table. It's about 1,000 pieces. I enjoy doing jigsaw puzzles. And why is that? Well, I think to some degree that there's some connection between jigsaw puzzles and having an entrepreneurial mindset. The word entrepreneur comes from the comes from the French, apprendre, which is to build. An entrepreneur is a builder. So, when I do a jigsaw puzzle, I dump all the pieces out on the table, and then I put the picture of the puzzle, which is always the top of the box. I set that picture up right in front of me so that I'm looking at it all the time. And then I start putting together pieces. I start connecting pieces, always looking at the box, looking at the picture. Put together a piece, I look at the picture. Put together another piece, I look at the picture. I'm always referencing the picture. One time I was working on a puzzle, it was in my living room, pieces everywhere. And I sat down to work on the puzzle, and just there for a minute or two, and I realized that the top of the box was gone. There was no picture of the puzzle. And I tried to work on the puzzle for a couple of minutes, and I quit. It was too frustrating to try to put together the pieces without having that picture. And I think that happens in companies all the time, that employees are working hard at their job without having a picture in their mind of what the vision is for this company. Where are we going? What's our destination? Where are we heading? So I mentioned Simon Sinek, the author, when we were talking about mission. His most recent book is called The Infinite Game. It's a great book. And he refers to, it's all about a company's vision. And he refers to a company's vision as their just cause. Their just cause. And he defines, he says, a just cause is a specific vision of a future state that does not yet exist. A future state so appealing that the people are willing to make sacrifices in order to help advance toward that vision. He says, don't get confused between mission and vision. And sometimes I know I get confused between mission and vision. Here's the best way to separate the two. Your mission is about where you are today. Your mission is about where you are today. Your vision is about the future. Vision is about where you are today. Mission is about your vision is about the future. So let me give you my best example of a vision statement. Now, it's rather long, but I think you'll see why I'll share this with you. This is an example of a vision statement. Blank is going to be a small world in itself, encompassing the things that were good and true in American life, dedicated to the ideals, the dreams, the hard facts that have created America. I don't want the public to see or think beyond the world they live in when they're inside our world created for them. Beyond physical places, we want to bring people along into an entirely different world with our philosophies, our ideas, our characters, our stories, our past, our present, and future, so that each of them are a part of it and never want to leave. At age 12 or age 62, we want them to feel curiosity, wonder, awe, fascination, joy, and attachment. Within this world, we want them to experience discovery and adventure, fun and entertainment, education, participation, and recognition. They will not just come to visit our places or to the theater to see our films. They will bring us into their homes and into their hearts. We will never settle for having customers or fans. They will all be blank people. This world will never be completed. It'll always be under construction, expanding, diversifying, playing more and more roles in their lives. Anyone want to guess who wrote that? Or what company it is? Anyone want to guess?
Disney.
Thank you. It's Disney. Well done. Walt Disney wrote that back in the 1950s, before he ever created his first park. Think about that. That was his vision for Disney back in the 50s. And his whole life became fulfilling that vision. The movies, the parks, the products, everything. Great example of a vision statement. So how do we go about creating a vision? Maybe the best way I can think of comes from another really good book from the author Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. Anyone read 7 Habits? Yeah. You may recall, I think it's the 4th habit. Covey says, start with the end in mind. Start with the end in mind, the 4th habit. So when he talks about this in the book, this is the example that he gives to the readers. He says, imagine the following. Imagine the following. You've decided to go out for a Sunday drive, out in your car, Sunday afternoon, just you. And you're driving the neighborhood, very familiar, and you drive by a building that you drive by all the time, except this time, the parking lot for this building is packed with cars, packed with cars. You think, well, that's unusual. Why are all the cars there? So you decide to check it out. So you park your car in the parking lot, parking way at the back end. Now, this is not just any building that you've just parked at. This is a church, a place of faith, a mosque, synagogue. And so now you're really curious. And so you go walking into, let's just call it a church. You go walking into the church, and the church is packed with people, completely full. And now you're really curious, what's going on? What kind of service is this on a Sunday afternoon? And so you go looking for a seat, and you find a pew in the very back of the church, the last open seat. And you take your seat and you grab a program, and you look at the program, and again, you're curious, what's going on? What kind of service is this? Well, you've walked into a funeral. Of all services, this is a funeral. And now you're really curious about who passed away. You didn't remember hearing of anyone dying the past week. And you look and you notice this is a funeral for your business. Your company has passed away. Nobody told you. Your company has passed away. It was a pleasant death. So now you look at the program, you're attending a funeral for your business, and you're curious what's going to take place. And you see that 3 different people are going to give, what is it called? People get up and stand up and talk about your business. What do we call that?
Eulogy.
Eulogy, right? Eulogy. So 3 different people are scheduled to eulogize your business. The first is one of your employees, one of your favorite employees. The second is one of your customers, going to talk about what was it like to be one of your customers. And the third is your banker, going to talk about how you ran your business from a financial point of view. So you're sitting in this church, sitting in this pew, waiting for each of these people to eulogize your business. And what's going on in your head is, what are they going to say? What are they going to say about my business 10 years from now, 20 years from now? What would I expect to hear? What would I like to hear from each of these: customer, employee, banker? And so the exercise is you pull out a blank piece of paper and you write down the first sentence or 2 from each of these 3 different people. What would you expect a customer to say about your business upon its passing? What would you expect one of your employees to say? What was it like to work at your company? And what would the banker say as a vendor, as a supplier, as a strategic partner? What would you hope to hear from the banker? So you write that down, first sentence from each of those people. And by doing that, what you have essentially done is you have begun to write your vision statement. Because by thinking about what they're going to say, what they're going to eulogize, you're essentially thinking about the future. You're thinking about your vision. What will they say? So that's just one exercise that you can use to begin thinking about your company's vision, to articulate your company's vision. Jim Collins, in the reading, he refers to this as your BHAG, your big, hairy, audacious goal. And he defines a BHAG as a 10-year. Think about 10 years from now. What do you want to achieve? Where do you want to be in 10 years? What is your BHAG for the next 10 years? James Newton is an author and a speaker, and he said the following, I thought was really powerful on this topic. He said, in the absence of a clear vision, people tend to recreate their past. Think about that statement. In the absence of a clear vision, people tend to recreate their past. If I don't give my people a picture of success, they're going to come up with their own picture. And it may be very different than the picture that I have. So as an example, let's just use an example. Let's say Mike has just recently joined my company, and in his last job, his company went bankrupt. They went out of business. They ran out of money. And now, having worked for a bankrupt company, now he's come to work for my company. Thank you, Mike. Welcome to the company. And he's been with me a couple of weeks, and we come up on a pay period, and I put out an announcement, hey, really sorry, there's been a hiccup with the bank. No payroll today. I'll get everybody on Monday. Nobody gets a paycheck today, but not a big deal. You get paid on Monday. What do you think is going through Mike's head right now about my company?
Deja vu.
He's thinking, here we go again, deja vu, another company going bankrupt. And why is he thinking that? Because it's just human nature. In the absence of a clear vision, people tend to recreate their past. He can't help but think this company is going bankrupt, just like my last company, unless I give him a different picture, a better picture, a shared vision, some people call it. Okay? So let's wrap this up. Three components of strategic intent: core values, mission, vision. Why are they so important? I'll give you a couple reasons, I think. Number one, back to decision making. If we have clear core values, if we have clear mission, if we have articulated a clear vision, decision making, all decisions get much, much easier. Not only your decisions, but your people's decisions as well. Second reason why I think these are really important. Strategic intent, mission, vision, core values within a company will operate like a magnet. They will attract the very best people. If you have a good mission, good vision, good core values, it's like a magnet. You'll attract really good people. The flip side is that if you don't have core values, if you don't have mission, if you don't have vision, you'll have the opposite effect. It'll push people away. So these things will either draw people to your company or they'll push people away. Third reason, and it kind of ties into the second one, your best employees, your best people are volunteers. They choose to work for your company, not because of the pay, not because of